Okay, welcome everybody to our prep ahead, getting very organised for Christmas cooking class using Thermomix. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody who's with us live. And if you're watching it on repeat, you are also very welcome. So we'll have some time at the end for some questions. And through the class, if there's anybody that's watching live that wants to ask anything, maybe pop it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that. And yeah, thank you. I can see people writing in the chat already. Hi, Neka. So do write in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. If you've got a Thermomix, let us know which one you're using. If you don't have one, that's okay too. And we'll get going. So my name is Michelle Clegg. I'm a team leader for Thermomix UK and Ireland. I'm based in the Channel Islands in Jersey. And I've been a team leader for quite a few years, actually. I bought my Thermomix back in 2016, I think it was. So I absolutely love it. And I've got a team of 25 people here in Jersey. I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Anna in a moment, who has also been Thermomixing a long time. Do you want to introduce yourself, Anna?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. Typical. And my name's Anna. I'm based in Brighton in the south of England, and I bought my first Thermomix in 2009, became an advisor in 2010, and I've got a lovely team here in the southeast as well. And still loving my Thermomix every day more and more. So, and it's really lovely to be able to share this class with all of you, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the recording. Thermomix is incredible at Christmas time. It's incredible all year round, but I think at Christmas time it is even more so. And today we're going to share some things that you can make ahead to make the big day even easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So we love Thermomix all year round, but yeah, Christmas, it really comes into its own. And I can be a little bit fly by the seat of my pants in terms of, what I'm making for dinner or lunches. But, when you've got people coming over and and the expectation of a lovely Christmas dinner from the family, sometimes it is really nice just to plan a little bit ahead and maybe just have some things ready so that you're not as stressed and as busy on the actual day. So whether you're entertaining before Christmas or on the actual day. So we're gonna make a few things live, and then we're also going to talk through some tips and ways of using your Thermomix just to speed things up and make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to start off by making the some stuffing. So the recipe that I've chosen. Now, I've done a number of stuffings in using Thermomix before, and I always freeze them. So I make them ahead, freeze them, and it's such a lovely thing to be able to do ahead of time. You can get loads of flavour in there. And I think cooking it separately from, if you're somebody that likes to have stuffing with your turkey, I think cooking it separately, you can get it just cooks a little bit better. I find you've got a bit more control over it, and also you can get some crispiness on the outside if that's what you want to. So this particular recipe that I'm doing is the chestnut and cranberry stuffing. So these are like little balls of stuffing, and lots and lots of flavour coming into here, which I'll go through with you. So we'll start off at the beginning of the recipe. So I am going to have to go back a little bit because I did skip ahead. So for anybody that's relatively new to Thermomix, I found this recipe by going into my Cookie Do app, which is the recipe app that comes with Thermomix. Over 100,000 recipes on there. If you just type in Christmas into Cookie Do, you're going to come up with some beautiful recipes. You can use your filters then to get through to whether it's a starter, a main course, a drink. This particular recipe is from the Festive Flavors one, I think. It's from Festive Dinner Party and also Merry Christmas. So as a subscriber to Cookie Do, you get access to all of the, not just the recipes, but the collections of recipes, so the books, so any book that we've produced. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the first step. So I'm just going to click on that first step, because I did go ahead a little bit just a while ago to get prepared, but just I can quickly go to the step I want by clicking on that in the preparation section. Okay, so the first part of this recipe is to place a bowl on the lid of the Thermomix, and it's just been used as a weighing scales in this instance. I'm pressing next, and into there I'm going to put 100 grams of cranberries and 50 grams of port. Now it talks about ruby port, which is kind of a lighter port, but all I had was lovely vintage port, so that's what I'm using, and that will be just fine. So 100 grams of cranberries and 50 grams of port. Now I did already do that, so the weighing scales comes up because we're using a guided recipe. I did already do this because it needed to soak for a little while. So in there are my cranberries and my lovely port, and that is already smelling incredible. So I'm just going to tick those off and press next. Okay, so setting that aside to macerate for 1 hour. So we've already done that. And then into here, I'm going to put base of my stuffing. So in here, I've got 70 grams of onions in quarters. So in they go. I've got a little bit less, and that's fine. So I'm using the other half of the onion for something else. So I'm just going to tick that. If I put in that exactly, it would tick it off for me, but that's totally fine. And then I'm going to put in unsalted butter, diced. So I'll just give that a little chop. There we go. And again, the weighing scales comes up for each of these steps so that you know that you're putting in what you want to put in. You can override that though. So if you want more or less of a particular ingredient, feel free to put more or less in. So I've got a couple of garlic cloves going in there as well. I'm going to press next. And then it's 5 seconds at speed 5. Now for any, oh, I've just skipped that. Hang on, let me go back to that. I don't want to skip that. 3 dots, make it a current step. Hang on. Set as current step. Okay, so I'm just going to press play. For anybody with an older Thermomix, so if you're used to using the 5 or the 6, normally we've got a big dial on the side. So we've got time, temperature, speed of the blade, and then we've got a big dial that you turn to get it going. We don't have that anymore in the TM7. We've just got a play button. So it sets up the time, temperature, speed of the blade as normal, and then we just press play. There we go. And again, for anybody that's a little bit newer to Thermomix, speed 5 is kind of the chopping speed. You'll see that as you're, doing your bolognese or your soup or your, anything savoury. When you're chopping your base, it's usually speed 5. And although we've got a shortcut button, so if you're new and you're wanting to adapt a recipe, you can just chop a whole load of vegetables and it will set all of that up for you. But usually between 3 and 5 seconds is what it takes to get everything kind of chopped down, and that's what it looks like in there. So that's my onions, garlic and butter all chopped up. And then I'm just going to pop my lid on there, and little chimney goes on top, and then it's going to saute it for 5 minutes, 120 degrees, and it's going to go on 0.5 blade, which is a very gentle speed. So I'm just going to press play on that, and then that's going to go. And obviously you're not here, so you can't. I know Zoom does mute things, but it's silent. It's probably one of the big things that I love about the upgrade that they've done to this model, is that it's very, very quiet. Up until about speed 4 is virtually silent, which is really nice. So so just while that's sauteing, Anna, are you ready to start your dish?
I am indeed, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, how you doing? Right, so today what I've chosen to make is a few make ahead things that I think are incredible, a little bit different. So I'm going to make 2 different unusual cheese dishes, and then I'm going to make a crumble cake, which I find is not just delicious, but pretty versatile, because you can have it as a dessert, you can have it cold as a little, bit of cake. It's just really versatile. And of course, the crumble is very easy to make ahead and freeze as well. And the whole cake is actually very easy to freeze. So I'm going to start by making one of the cheese dishes. Let me bring it up. Now, the cheese dish is a Spanish dish. I grew up in Spain, and I don't know if you have any Spanish connections, but turrón is something that's really big over there. And primarily it's a sweet dish. So my kids love chocolate turrón, for example. You've got the almond turrón. You've got lots of different, and they're almond based, and they are really delicious. But today I'm going to make a savory turrón, which is a cheese-based turrón. So my Thermomix has just switched off just as I was about to use it. So let's put that back on. Luckily, the TM7 does fire up quite quickly. And as soon as it comes on, I've saved everything in my weekly planner. Now, one of the great things about prepping for Christmas is that you can make use of the weekly planner. The weekly planner is great. You can start prepping for Christmas like as early as October, November. Like you can start making Christmas cakes. You can start making your mincemeat, for example, your chutneys. All of that you can start really early ahead, like October and November. And by using your weekly planner, you can really organize yourself well and say, like, you could even start in September saying, right, what do I want to prep ahead in October? Excuse me, what do I want to prep ahead in November? And what do I want to leave for the last couple of weeks before Christmas? So I've saved in my weekly planner what I'm making today. And the first thing I'm going to make is the Spanish turrón. Now, this is a camembert based cheese dish, but as you can see, it's got lots of lovely flavors added into it. Okay, now I will send the links to you, and I can also translate it for you. It's obviously in Spanish, but even if you follow the Spanish link, all you need is Google Translate, ChatGPT, and it will translate the ingredients and everything for you. So it's really easy to follow recipes from other countries, even if you don't understand the language, because today with our phones and translation capabilities, there are no recipes that are beyond our reach. So here we have the recipe. I'm going to press start, and the first thing it's going to tell me to add, well, the first thing it's telling me to actually get my dish ready, which I have here with some cling film. So I've just popped some cling film in there. So that's our first instruction. Then it's asking me to add some cream, double cream. So 50 grams of double cream are going straight in there. Love the scales, as always. Thermomix is probably one of the things that first blew me away was the scales, because just the fact that you can weigh everything straight in there for me was just game changing. I'm a huge baker, and I used to make such a mess in my kitchen, weighing everything out, putting it in little pots, and the fact that now everything goes straight in there, I mean, that's so time saving. So now it's asking me to put the camembert in. As you can see, it's still got the skin as well. Just brush it a little bit, just to give it a clean, but you chop it in quarters like this, in little squares, and that whole camembert is going to go straight into our bowl, like so. So let's press next. It's asking me to put the lid on. There we go. And I'm going to press play. So that's now going to melt for 7 minutes. So while that's melting, I'm going to move on to another recipe. So I'm just going to move this camera a little bit closer here so you can see what's going on in my TM6. Now, the recipe I'm going to make now, I'm going to start with the crumble. The crumble cake, again, it's another fantastic recipe that you can make ahead. It's just a bit of a twist on a mince pie or, a Christmas pudding, because not everybody wants to be eating a Christmas pudding all the time. And I find it's really fascinating that you can just try different things. Another thing that I'm doing with this recipe is I'm making it gluten-free. I'm using gluten-free flour. Many of the recipes, we do have a book that's a gluten-free Christmas book, which is brilliant if you have anybody in your household who's gluten-free. But some recipes are very easy to just swap the flour for gluten-free. And this is one of them that I find it's a very easy swap. So let me find my recipe and bring it up. Everything had switched itself off, of course, while we were waiting. And mince meat crumble cake is the name of the recipe if you want to look it up on Cookie-Doo. Here we go. Right, so it's telling us to preheat the oven, which I've already done. It's asked us to I've got another dish ready to go here with the paper. I'm going to press next, and now it's asking me to add the plain flour. So as I said, I'm going to be using gluten-free flour today. You can make your own gluten-free flour, but to be honest, at Christmas time, there's so much going on. I love making food, but I do cut some corners sometimes. Like I potentially might buy a couple of rolls of pastry to make some canapes. I might buy the gluten-free flour just to save time, because I'm making so many different things that it's not always possible to be a domestic goddess, is it? But we're doing the best we can. There we go. Just a tiny bit more. Okay, so that's 265 grams of flour. Now we're going to add some light brown sugar. 125 grams are going in. There we go. Always sticky. There we go. Tiny, tiny bit more. And we're almost in. Perfect. Let's press next. And now we're going to add some almonds as well. So again, you can make your own almond flour. I always keep them in the pantry for when time is a little bit precious. So I'm adding 100 grams of our almond flour. There we go. Straight into the bowl, which is brilliant. Put another one here. And as I said, yes, you can make these things very, very easily. But sometimes if you need to cut corners, these are the things that you can cut the corners on. A little bit more. And we're close. Okay, doke. So that's our almond flour gone in. So now we're going to make the crumble by popping the lid on, measuring cup, and we're going to press next. And now I'm going to turn the speed selector to speed 3 for 15 seconds. Now, the great thing about this crumble is that it is freezable. So you could, if say, for example, you wanted to make an apple crumble or blackberry and something else crumble because you have people who actually don't like mincemeat and don't like mince pies, you could make this crumble and freeze it in little bags in your freezer. And then all you have to do is the filling, which you could also freeze as well, and then take it out and make the crumble and put it all in the oven. So these are great things that you can actually make ahead. Right, so 15 seconds, that's mixed all the dry ingredients for us. And now we're going to add the butter, which I have ready here. Of course, we all know that Thermomix makes amazing butter. But again, we're doing a lot of homemade food at the minute. So yes, we will cut some corners today. If you haven't made butter before, you must actually, because it is utterly delicious. And we also have some great flavored butters, like there's a Polish recipe for tomato butter that is absolutely divine. And it's one of the things that gets the most comments whenever I have people round and I have a buffet. So if you'd like to know the name of the butter, I'll let you know the Polish tomato butter. Right, let's press next. So this is now making the crumble for us. And we're using the turbo function. So we're going to turn. There we go, 3 or 4 times. And one more. Of course, with the TM7, the difference is that we don't have a knob anymore. We just press play, the green button, and it's going to do that 3 or 4 times for us automatically, just saving a little bit more time. Right, so let me show you what it's done. Now, we all know how long it takes to make a crumble when we have to pop our hands in and do it. So that was all in 4 seconds. That's all it took. So let me show you how we're going to put our crumble together. So I'm just making sure that you can see in the camera. Let's put that down a little bit. And I'll push my Thermomix back so you can see. So what we need to do now is we're going to put 2/3 of this mixture into our bowl or our sheet pan, should we say? That sounds a bit American, doesn't it? Sheet pan. There we go. And then we're just going to use either our spatula or a spoon, and we're going to press it down into the corners. I think we probably need to add a tiny bit more. In fact, a spoon is probably going to be much more efficient, I reckon. So we're going to press that down.
Sorry,
like
Anna,
so.
we can't see your assembly.
Right, you can't see very well. Let me turn this around.
That's better. Now we can
Is
see
that
better.
better? See, that's why we have double cameras, you see. Thank you. Thanks, Lucy, for letting me know.
No problem. Thank you.
And another little tip is I'm going to wet my spoon, because when you wet your spoon or your hands, things won't stick to it like it was before. So we're just going to put that down. And I'm going to finish off with my fingers because I think it's much more efficient when it comes to a crumble. So we're just going to press it all down. firmly, like so. Just want to make sure that I fill in any gaps that I have. We want it to be properly covered up. Tiny bit more here. Now, the great thing about this crumble recipe is you could fill it with anything you want. Like, say, for example, if you don't like mincemeat, you could make a lovely apple and blackberry compote and fill it up with that as well, for example. Certainly, if you're having it as a warm dessert, you could fill it up with anything you wanted. And it just makes a bit of a twist in your regular crumble. Okay, so the next thing I have here is some homemade mincemeat. This is another thing that we have plenty of recipes in Cookie Do. Very easy to make. And I tell you what, the homemade one is divine. It's so much nicer than the one we buy. So, as I said, when it comes to cutting corners, I would cut the corners in things like maybe the pastry or buying a flour that's already ground. But something like mincemeat, it's so easy to make, I promise you, and you will love it. And you might even be able to control the sugar as well, things like that. But let's add our lovely, as you can see, put little round discs to keep it safe. Let's add our mincemeat. And mincemeat lasts a very long time in the fridge. So this is one of the first things that you can actually make together with the chutneys. This is one of the first things that you can probably start making earlier on in the season. Okay, so we just add, whoops, I'm dropping everything. Let's add it all in here. And again, we'll pat it down. Just make a nice layer of about maybe 1 or 2 centimeters approximately. I mean, if you're following the recipe, I'm doing it without measuring. But if you're following the recipe, it will tell you the exact measurement that you need to add in. It's normally about a regular tub.
I think it's about 700 grams or something, Anna. Although we find that it's quite rich with that amount, so you can actually do it with a bit less.
Yeah, that's why I always say, you know, sometimes you can just be the judge, you know, a little bit of how thick you think you want it.
Can I ask you a silly question, please? How long can you store minced meat that you made from the Thermomix in the fridge for?
I would say you're looking at an average of 2 to 3 months with a mincemeat.
If
So
it's
you
longer,
could start
would it be
making
all right?
mincemeat around September time, I reckon, for Christmas.
But if you stored it for longer, would that be all right?
To be honest, I when it comes to
Yes.
when it comes to homemade foods, you've got to remember they don't carry any preservatives in them.
Yeah.
And this is the difference. So sometimes it's difficult to judge when you make homemade and you don't put preservatives in them. And there are many things like, say, for example, butter, lemon curd, they don't have a huge shelf life at all. You know, that's why we can make butter and freeze it, because butter will only last 2 to 3 weeks maximum. So you have to, I think you're probably better off Googling it 100%, because I don't want to give you the wrong information. But just remember that when it comes to homemade goods, they won't last as long. Okay, so sometimes it's better to Google it to find out the official answer rather than tell you something that I wouldn't be too sure about.
Yeah, but this one's got alcohol, so maybe it's a bit longer, but I will Google it.
It does. Well, it's a bit like Christmas cake. You know, you can make your Christmas cake ahead in September. I normally make them around September, October time, Christmas cake, and it lasts wonderfully till Christmas time. Would I make it 6 months before? Probably not. But they say if you freeze it, it does last longer. For example, you can freeze fruit cake and it will last longer. So maybe you can freeze your minced meat.
I think also it depends on how you've bottled it as well. You know, so have you sterilized your jars? You know, did you put the lids on? Well, you know, have you canned it basically? Because I think, you know, and as long as you're using a fresh implement, you know, to take things out, I think, you know, because it's got such a high sugar content, I'd be fairly confident to keep it for quite a long time. Actually, you will see mold on it if it's gone, you know, if it's turned.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it. But you know, the official answer is probably a lot less time. So.
Okay.
Right. So I've got the rest of the crumble here. And you can see that I've patted down the minced meat now. I put the whole jar in there, and that I think that was a really good amount. And that was probably about 500 grams. It wasn't a whole 700, but I think that was a really, really good amount. And now what I'm doing with the crumble, I'm not going to pat it in. I'm actually going to sprinkle it on top because we want to give it that lovely crumbly look and feel. So that's just going to go on top like so. There we are. So it's scrambled on top. I think it looks really lovely and rustic, and you see that when it cooks, you'll see the lovely peaks on top. Okay, so that's our crumble ready to go. Now you could get this ready, of course, and use it, ahead. You could pop it in the fridge, and then bake it whenever you need it. You could even freeze it as well if you've got the space. I think the problem is the freezer space, isn't it? None of us had too much freezer space. But this is something that you can make 2 or 3 days ahead and pop it in the fridge until the big day. So the last thing I have is some pecans that we're going to sprinkle on top. This is going to give a lovely crunch. I love pecans. They give it's a very Christmassy thing, and they give a lovely nutty flavor. So I'm going to sprinkle some of these on top, and then they're going to go in the oven. There we go, like so. So that's our finished product, and that's just going to go in our oven. And I'll check the timing now, just to make sure how long it's got to go in there. Okay, so 45 or 50 minutes, okay, at 170. So that's gone in now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish one of my cheesy recipes, and then I'll pass you back to Michelle. So let me go back to my TM7. So what we've done in the TM7 is we've melted the cheese and the double cream. Okay, so that's gone in there. And before that goes hard, we need to carry on. So now we're going to add 60 grams of cream cheese. You can use any cream cheese that you like. It could be, mascarpone. It could be ricotta. I'm using just regular store-bought cream cheese today, but feel free to use your imagination. Then we're going to mix that for 30 seconds. So press play, and that's mixing it for us. If you want to know what comes ahead, you can keep going down, and it's going to tell you the next steps on the TM7. So it's telling you exactly what to do. So you can prep ahead, you can have your ingredients ready to go. You can tidy the counter as well while you're waiting for things to mix. But there you go. And with the TM7, if you want to go back to where you were, you've got to make sure that it says current step as well. Sometimes it says past step. If it does say past step, just remember to go to the 3 little dots on the side and tick current step so you can carry on. Right, so we've mixed all that together, and now we're going to carry on adding the rest of the ingredients. I'm going to use a different spatula because the other one has some crumble on it. So let's not mix the different flavors. Okay.
We just had a couple of questions. So the full name of the recipe is the mincemeat crumble cake.
Yes, that's correct.
And we're going to be passing the recipe links to everybody after this. And then Nikki saying she's finding it really difficult to find recipes, so she was just looking for a basic minced meat. Is there one on Cookie Do, or do you use your own?
Yes, there's a couple of really good ones on Cookie Do. There's ones that's gluten free, and then there's another one. But yeah, I use the Cookie Do one. So I'm happy to share the ones that I like.
Yeah. So any of the recipes that we mentioned today, we'll definitely put into a little summary email and send it to everybody afterwards.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants a translation of this one, because it's in Spanish, I'm more than happy to do
please.
that as well.
Sounds delicious.
So now it's asking me to add a few more ingredients to our lovely creamy cheesy mixture there. Okay, so we're going to add some, let's see, I've got it all ready here. I did get it ready earlier on because I didn't want to. So I've got a mixture of nuts here because it's asking me 30 grams of peeled almonds, 30 grams of pistachios, 30 grams of pine nuts, and 30 grams of walnuts. Okay, so what I did is I measured it all together in this bowl. So all 4 nuts are going in there. Okay, let's press next. And then we're going to mix this together. Camembert cheese has become really popular. You know, the cranberry cheese that you kind of bake and then dip bread in. But I think this is a nice twist to camembert cheese. You know, we've added the nuts into it. We've just given it a slightly different flavor. We've given it crunch. And I think it's so beautiful on the cheese board to have something that's just a little bit outside of the box. This isn't something that you can buy in a shop. This is something that, I know it's very easy to create a cheese board, buying lots of different cheeses, but to be able to create something like this and something very different that people won't see, I really like that. I love experimenting and I like trying different things. Okay, so we're going to do the same again. This is ready to go. This is how quick and easy it is, to be honest, because all we did was melt the camembert with the cream. And then, right, I'm going to make sure that you can see what I'm doing now again. So melt the camembert with the cream, add all the nuts in, and that's it. This is our cheese dish ready to go. So this is now going to go into my container.
What do you do with this, Anna? Do you include it on a cheese board, is it?
It goes on a cheese board, that's right.
Lovely.
Yeah,
okay.
And this is good enough for at least 2 or 3 days. So I might chop it up and just put a square on a cheese board, say on, Christmas Eve, and then I'll save some more for the next day, to add on Christmas Day for the Christmas cheese board on Christmas Day. So yeah, a little goes a long way because it's quite strong, camembert. So
can you freeze it, did you say?
You can freeze it, indeed, yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, this is a great make-ahead dish, I think. Again, it's the same as with your chutneys or your crackers. If you want to make homemade crackers, all these things are make-ahead, which makes life so much easier. When it comes to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, all these things just ready to go in the fridge is fantastic. But I do think it elevates a cheese board. Right, so I'm just going to pat it out.
Sorry, what's this recipe called?
This is a Spanish recipe, which I'm going to send a link. I don't know if you'll understand it if I say, but it's turrón de camembert is the Spanish name in Coquidou. And we are going to send the link out, okay? So I'm just patting it. And then the only thing you need to do, because this now needs to go in the fridge for a minimum of time, is cover it with the cling film. So this is why we use cling film for this one. Just pull the cling film over, cover it like so, and that's now ready to go into the fridge and ready for whenever you need to use it. And as you can see, there's quite a decent amount there, and you can use it for at least 3 different days. All right.
And you could do like smaller portions as well, could you, Anna? Do like little individual portions if you wanted to do a smaller
100%, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I just tend to cut it in squares, for example, That's how I portion it out, by cutting it. But honestly, feel free. This is because turrón is typically made in a rectangle. So this is why we always do this kind of shape when we make turrón. But feel free. I mean, your imagination, wherever it takes you, that's absolutely fine. So I've got another recipe, but I'm going to over to Michelle now, and then I can finish my other cheese recipe. You go ahead.
Thanks so much, Anna. I was making the stuffing. So if you've just joined us, I know there's a couple of people that have just joined. This is called the cranberry and chestnut stuffing. And again, we'll pass out the links to all of these recipes afterwards. So the first part of this recipe was just to chop and saute some onions, some garlic in some butter. And then I just put that aside to cool because the next part is adding some our sausage meat and our chestnuts. So we don't want to start cooking that sausage meat too soon. So that's already cooled down actually. So into my bowl, I've put 450 grams of sausage meat. So in that goes. And then I'm going to put in some breadcrumbs, which of course I've made in my Thermomix. So I had a nice crusty roll that I just made into some breadcrumbs. And just again, for anybody that's newer to Thermomix, if you want to know how to chop anything, breadcrumbs in this case, on the 7, if you go into your modes button, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, so there's a little symbol that looks like a blade, and you just scroll down the screen, you're going to see some images of things that you might want to either chop or steam. And you can scroll down until you get to bread, or you can, there's some shortcuts up above. On the 6, it's in your shortcut modes. It's called the chop mode, and you're going to be able to find breadcrumbs there. And it asks you if you want finely chopped or coarsely chopped breadcrumbs. So that's really handy. So yeah, anything that you want to chop, and even making your own mince. Actually, I could have made my own mince meat. So if you want to make chicken mince or beef mince, you can do that as well using that chop mode. So handy to to know that that's there. So in goes, so I'm going to go back into my recipe. There we go, back in. So I've got my sausage meat in there. I've got my breadcrumbs. So it's 140 grams of breadcrumbs. So I'm ever so slightly short on breadcrumbs, but that's okay because I'm going to make it up with my chestnuts. And in case you're like me and you don't cook with chestnuts terribly often and you don't know where to find them, I found the packet of cooked chestnuts. Of course, you can prepare them yourself if you're so inclined. But they were in the kind of the gravy section. So you know where your bisto and your stuffings are. So that's what, if you're looking, because I thought I would find it in fresh produce, for, like with the figs and things, but apparently not. Anyway, so in goes my chestnuts. So these are cooked and peeled chestnuts. So I've taken a little shortcut there and bought them pre-done. And again, my weighing scale system up there. So weigh all of those in. And yeah, so I'm going over on that to make up for the breadcrumbs, and also just because I want to use the whole packet, because otherwise I won't be using any chestnuts and anything else in the next few days. Okay, so and then into there as well, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of flat leaf parsley, kind of roughly chopped, and some thyme, half a teaspoon of thyme, and I've just prepped that, so I will put that in there as well. In they go. And then I've got a teaspoon of fine salt and some pepper. Tick, tick, tick. There we go. And then I've got an egg in there as well. And I'm going to skip the nutmeg because I lent it to somebody and I didn't get it back. So no nutmeg this time, but that's okay. We can always adjust seasoning afterwards. Okay, so that is that. So all of those are gone in, and then I'm going to add in my macerated cranberries and port. So again, if you're a little bit late joining us, these have been sitting in some lovely port for about an hour, just to soak up all of that beautiful flavour. So you can see there's quite a bit going on with this stuffing. We've got our cranberries, we've got our port, we've got the beautiful chestnuts, the pork mince, all of those herbs. There's lots of this is going to be just a lovely little burst of flavour on your plate, whatever else you're serving it with. Okay, so that's it. So that just mixes now for 25 seconds on speed 4. And I'm just going to press play. Yes. And that is it. Okay, beautiful. So now this is what my mixture looks like. So it's all nicely mixed up. And then all you need to do, so you could actually just put this in a dish and bake it all together if you wanted to. And then you can chop it up. So if you're tight for time, or or you just want to serve it like that, you could definitely do that. Or you could stuff your bird with it if you didn't want to kind of bake it separately. But I think it's nice. I think this method of cooking it in little balls means you can portion it out quite nicely. You get a bit of crispiness on the outside, which I think is really nice. And so I'll just show you. I'll roll 1 or 2 just so that I can show it to you. The other thing is that I'm gonna freeze these in a flat layer, and then when they're frozen, I'll tip them out into a freezer bag. The benefit of freezing these and then cooking them, I will bring them out to defrost, but they'll still be a bit frozen when I put them in the oven. So I won't let them defrost for too long, because they keep their shape better like that. Anna's just putting in the name of that recipe there. So so I'm just going to roll up this roll of stuffing so I can show you what that looks like. There we go. So I'll do a few of those so that I can just show you at the end. But when Anna's doing her next recipe, but yeah, so I've got my little balls of stuffing, and then yeah, I'll put them onto a one of my silicone baking mats and into the freezer just for a couple of hours until they're properly frozen, and then I'll tip them into a bag just so that they don't take up as much room. And yeah, and then they're ready to go. So that's that. So now the other thing I wanted to show you, I will tip all of that out in a moment because I'm going to be cooking something else in this Thermomix. But just while I've been doing that, I have been using my TM6, which is in the background. You know what they say? What is better than a Thermomix? Anybody know? Anna knows. Two Thermomixes. So yeah, I have to say, I know with our trade-in deal at the moment, people are considering, do I trade up? Do I not? Keep your other Thermomix. I have to. I can highly recommend it. But yeah, so anyway, in my other Thermomix, I have been doing some sweet potato, which I've just cooked up because I'm going to make a really lovely buttery, garlicky sweet potato mash with hazelnuts. So I've just prepared my sweet potato already, and I'm going to do my garlic butter now in a second. So with this sweet potato mash, I'm going to make the mash part of it, and it's got garlic butter through it. I'm going to freeze it like that, and then when I defrost it, I'll bring it out the night before, and it'll be fully defrosted. I'll heat it up, and then I'm going to toast some hazelnuts to go on top. So this is just a lovely little side dish. It's really tasty. It's got sage in there as well. So I'll show you. I'm kind of showing you that recipe backwards because I want to do the garlic butter in my TM7, and I've only got one bowl, so I've got to wash it out at the moment. All of the advisors are desperate for more bowls, so but we've all had a chance to earn a second bowl this month, and we're getting them in January. So watch the space. We're going to be doing so, and we think that there's probably going to be bowls available to buy sooner rather than later, which thank goodness. But just while I'm talking about vegetables, I just wanted to talk a little bit about using your blade cover peeler. So that's what that looks like. It's the same one that fits in the 5, the 6, and the 7. It just goes in on top of your blades. And that was my breadcrumb bowl. Let me just show you what that looks like. Goes in on top of it like that. And you can use this to, there's a couple of different ways you can use it. If you're using it to peel your vegetables, so you can peel your potatoes and your carrots and your parsnips and everything else using that. It's really brilliant. And if you are peeling things like your root vegetables, just chop them in kind of fairly even pieces, just so that like for example, like that. So and then it's going to be peel them evenly, and what you end up with is what we call my sons call them hotel carrots or Marks and Spencer carrots. They'll be a little bit rounded all over, but yeah. So if you want to do your root vegetables like that, just prep your vegetables roughly the same size. You put a bit of water into the bowl. You have your blade cover peeler, and then you use the peeling mode, which is one of our shortcut modes on the Thermomix, and which we love. So I might pass over I'll talk a bit more about prepping vegetables and roast potatoes in a few minutes. I'll pass back to Anna so that I can just get rid of this stuffing and clean my bowl out. Is that okay, Anna? Have you got something else that you're going to talk about?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Lovely. So I just cleaned my TM7 bowl because, as you said, we've only got one bowl, so we have to do the cleaning and washing. So that was perfect timing. Now I've chosen another cheese dish I thought since we're talking about cheese, for our cheese board. So different type of cheese, different flavour. And again, another little showstopper for your cheese board, something a little bit unusual and different if you wish to do something different. So I've got the recipe here. Now this recipe is in English, so that's easier, and it's called cranberry pecan cheese ball. Now we all know that cranberry and cheese goes really, really well together. Cranberries and pecans go really well together. In fact, one of my favourite Christmas dishes, and unfortunately it's not a Thermomix recipe, is pecan and cranberry cheesecake. It's one of my favorite Christmas desserts. But let's play start. And the first thing we have to do is add the pecans, which I have weighed out. So there go in 70 grams of pecans. Going to pop the lid on, and there we go, like so, and press play. So this is going to pop. Lovely. So this has chopped the pecans for us. Let me get another. There we go. That's our pecans all chopped up. We're going to set that aside. Now we're going to be using this at the very, very end. So I will be showing you. I do love pecans, I must say. It's a very American flavour, pecans and cranberry, but it's really Christmassy. So let's keep going. So now we're going to add cheddar cheese, 110 grams of cheddar cheese, which is here, and I've cut in little cubes. There we go. So that's going in. Next, we're going to add 60 grams of dried cranberries, which again, I've measured out. So the dried cranberries go straight into the bowl. And then we need some thyme, fresh thyme, which I have here. What I've done, this is 2 sprigs of thyme, but it's the leaves only. So I've already separated them. And that's them. Oh, I can smell the thyme. That's so lovely. And we're going to pop the lid on. So that was 5 seconds at speed 6. 5 seconds at speed 6. I'll show you what it looks like so far. There we go. So that's cheddar cheese and cranberries all chopped together. I love the mixture of the colour, obviously, the creamy white of the cheese and the cranberries. It just looks beautiful. So now we've got to add our cream cheese. So it's 220 grams of cream cheese. So I'll pop the rest of the tub that I was using before. There we go. Oh, we go. That's gone in, and I need some more, which I have ready here. There we go. So let me keep an eye on the scales. Perfect. So that's the rest. So it's 220 grams of cream cheese. Going to press next, and now we're going to mix this together again. And it says in the instructions, it's 5 seconds at speed 7. Prolong the time by 5 seconds if necessary until fully blended. So this is where you need to have a look yourself and be the judge of whether it looks right, whether it doesn't look right. There we go. This is what it looks like now. So what I would do personally is scrape the sides down, get it all down, and put it on for another 5 seconds, just so to make sure that it is nice and fully blended. So we're going to do that there. Let's pop it on again. So for this, we need to go back. This is where this is slightly different to the TM6. We're going to get back to a past step. I'm going to do the 3 letters, and it says set as the current step. So this is how you go backwards to repeat a step on the TM7. You have to go into the 3 dots and press set as current step. So we've done that, pop the lid on, and we're going to do it for another 5 seconds. Okay. So this is it. This is our mixture. I think that's absolutely beautifully blended together. The cream cheese, the cheddar cheese. Remember, you could also add a bit of smokiness if you wanted a smoky cheddar cheese as well. I think that would go really nice with the cranberries also. Now, the next step is that we're going to empty. I'm still making sure that you can see. So we're going to empty the mixture into a bowl. And this now needs to go in the fridge for a minimum of half an hour. So what I'm going to do is just pop it in the freezer for 5 or 10 minutes, because we need to roll this mixture out in either in a giant bowl or smaller individual bowls. This is entirely up to you, really. This is where you can really use your imagination. And once we've rolled it into a ball, we're going to cover it with our pecan. So basically, you know, like you would breadcrumb something, we're going to kind of pecan crumb it on the outside and put it back in the fridge, and then these bowls, as I said, it can be a massive, gigantic, ball, or you can turn it into, say, 2 or 3 bowls. Say you wanted to use one for each day, one for Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. You can do that as well. So what I'm going to do is pop it all in here, cover it with cling film, and I'm going to put it in the freezer, and then I can come back and show you how we're going to roll it into a ball and breadcrumb it ready to serve on our cheese board. Right, so over to you, Michelle. How are you doing? How are you getting on? Are you still busy? Now let's talk about, it sounds like Michelle might be a little bit busy. So other things that we can make ahead, of course, are our chutneys. My favorite chutneys, red caramelized onion chutney is a winner in my house. That's always on repeat in my fridge. We eat it all throughout the year. But my other favorite is the chili and red pepper jam. I find that is incredible. It's very unusual. It's got a little bit of a kick in it. It's got a beautiful red colour, and I think that is incredible for Christmas. The other one that's very popular, even though I don't actually tend to make it very often, is the bacon jam. I know that a lot of people love the bacon jam as well, but there are so many chutney recipes in cookie dough and relishes. So please make sure that you have a good look through. We're always publishing new recipes, so there might be something different that you haven't seen before. The other thing that you can prep ahead, of course, is the fudges, chocolates, things like that. I mean, they're incredible, not just for gift giving, but they're lovely centerpieces. If you have somebody around on Christmas Eve, they're lovely as an after dinner treat. You can make some chocolates with mint, for example, for after dinner. There's so many different things that you can prep ahead. And of course, if you have kids or grandchildren, get them involved in making all these fun things like the chocolates and the biscuits. And of course, crackers, you can make your own crackers as well to go with cheese. We're a gluten-free household, so we tend to do a lot of gluten-free things. So gluten-free crackers is a must in our household. We tend to use seeds and almond flour for our crackers, and they are divine. They're so much nicer than anything that you can buy in the shop. So highly recommend that. I think Michelle's now ready, aren't you? Over to you, lovely.
I was just drying off my bowl. I will be very happy when we get these new bowls.
Yeah.
Particularly for a class situation. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to show you now. Also, I was on 2 cameras. One of them has given up the ghost, so I'm not sure you can actually see my TM7 anymore. But that is, I've just rolled in some of my stuffing bowls there. And the other thing is that I noticed that I had forgotten to put back in my sauteed onions and garlic, so I gave everything a mix. I put that other one back in, so I'm going to put them, if I was ready to cook this straight away, they would go into a preheated oven, obviously, and that's part of the instructions of the recipe. I'm going to test out one of the suggestions with this recipe is to test out one by just frying it up in a pan, just to check your seasoning. And that's not a bad idea, actually, so that you can just check if you've got the balance right. So I might leave one of those out for my lunch, but otherwise I'll be freezing them like that in a layer so that I can then store them in a freezer bag. Okay, so that's that. Now, how am I I don't know what's going on with this camera. It seems to be following me around the room, but it's not following my Thermomix. Anyway, you might need to just look at my face. So the next thing, so we were talking about this lovely sweet potato mash. I don't know what's going on. This camera is following me around the room. So I was talking about a lovely sweet potato mash that's got some garlic and sage through it, and this is something that you can cook ahead, freeze, and then bring out, and it's just a lovely extra side dish that you can have for your Christmas dinner or your Boxing Day dinner, whatever you like. Or if you're in Ireland, your Stephen's Day dinner, that's what we call Boxing Day. So anyway, so in there I've got my garlic and sage, and I've just given that all a little chop. By the way, Thermomix owners, how much do we love our pre-clean option? I just think it's the best thing ever. Obviously, when you only do have one bowl, doing a little pre-clean between dishes just means that you can cook more quickly. Okay, so I've got my sage in there, I've got my garlic. I'm just going to pop in some butter into there as well. So there's 50 grams of butter. Now, obviously, with these recipes that I'm doing, they're fairly generous on the butter If that's not something you want to do, you can reduce it, because I know some people are just conscious of that. Obviously you'll get a bit more flavor with more butter, but yeah, you adapt it whatever way you want it. Okay, so my sage and my garlic. So I'm sorry you can't see that, but it's very similar to the first step that I did with my stuffing. So I was just going to come back and just talk about potatoes, because one of the things that happens if you're doing any roast, but particularly a Christmas Day roast with a turkey, is that your oven gets really full. The real estate in your kitchen is limited. So one of the things that you can do is prepare your roast potatoes ahead of time, so that they're not going to take as long on the day. So how you're going to do that is by par cooking your potatoes by steaming them first of all. Your Verona is just an incredible tool. If you've got a Thermomix and you haven't used your Verona very much, please take it out and use it, because particularly at Christmas you can steam so many things. Yeah, it's a wonderful tool. But and I'm going to also be I'm going to be steaming my parsnips and my carrots. So I'm going to be steaming everything until they're nearly there, and then I'm going to be letting them cool totally. And then I'm going to be, for my carrots and my parsnips, I will freeze them then when they're totally cooled. Again, I'm going to do that in a layer so that they don't stick to each other. And then when they're totally frozen, I'll pop them in a bag. And then for my carrots and and particularly the parsnips, I'm going to finish those off then on the day in a little bit of oil and honey. And I'm just, yeah, that'll get some nice caramelization in the oven. But for your roast potatoes, what I'll do with my roast potatoes is I'll peel them, and I can use my peeler for that. And then I'm going to pop them into steam in my Verona. And then when they're done, so towards the end of the time when they're while they're steaming, I'll preheat my oven. I will put some duck fat. You can use whatever oil you want to. You could use olive oil or olive oil and some butter as well. But I'll probably use duck fat. I'll get that nice and hot in the oven. And when I finish steaming my potatoes, I'll coat them in that lovely oil, and I will get them to the point that they're just starting to turn. So they're a little bit crispy and they're golden, but not too far. Then what I'll do is I'll give them a little fluff up so that they get a bit kind of jagged edges, and then I'll freeze them at that point. So I will let them cool down, and then I'll freeze them in a single layer, and then I'll take them out of the oven when I'm ready for them, and they'll go back in the oven and they'll have all of those crispy bits from where I fluffed them up before. Probably a tiny bit more oil at that stage, back into the oven, and then they're going to be so much quicker. So that initial roast of those potatoes will be about 20 minutes. And then they'll get finished off on the day. So that's a really big time saver. So I just thought I'd share that little tip. My garlic and my sage is still sauteing there. Let me just skip ahead so that I can see what's coming up next. So it's talking about cooking the sweet potatoes, which I already did. There we go. So when this is finished, I'm going to be adding in my sweet potatoes. Now, for this particular recipe, it called for them just to be boiled in some water. So I've just drained them in the steaming basket. So I've got about 500 grams of sweet potatoes there. So I've already cooked those. So they're going to go in with most of that garlic and sage butter. You just retain a little bit that you can drizzle on top. I'm going to probably just leave it all in, to be honest with you. And then on the day, I'm going to put my toasted hazelnuts on top. And I might just put a little drizzle of olive oil on just to finish it off. But yeah, so that is, nearly finished. Anna, have you got anything else to talk to us about?
Yeah. I mean, I can show you the crumble, for example, because that's almost done, and then I can do the cheese ball. So let me bring the crumble out for you to see. It needs another 5 minutes or so, but it's good enough to have a little look so you can see what it looks like.
This crumble cake is so lovely, and you get that sense of mince pies, but so much quicker. I
It's just
just think,
incredible. This
oh, I think it's lovely, and it actually keeps well for quite a few days. So when I made it last year, it is really rich, so you can't eat a huge amount of it, thank God. Oh, I think you're mute, Anna.
I was talking. I've been talking all this time, Michelle. I've been chatting away. Right, so it probably needs another 5 minutes, but it's looking really good actually, and quite golden. I was just going to say, I really love this as an alternative dessert straight out of the oven. I know it's meant to be a crumble cake where we let it go cold and we cut it in squares, which is also delicious, don't get me wrong. But this is really beautiful as a dessert with some custard, with some whipped cream. It's so indulgent, it's so gooey, it's really lovely. That's why I think it's such a versatile recipe, because you can have it as a cake cold, you can have it warm, you can even cut it into squares as a cake and then warm it up and add a little bit of cream on it or brandy butter. This is a really, really delicious. And again, you can prep ahead. You can have the crumble ready. Obviously, you can have the mincemeat ready, and you can even buy the mincemeat, if you haven't got time to make mincemeat. But it is a really beautiful dish, and that's why I wanted to show it to you today. A really good prep ahead. Of course, you've got the classic Christmas pudding. You can also make your classic Christmas pudding, and actually, there's a really good gluten-free recipe for that as well. For anybody who's gluten or dairy-free, there's a gluten-free, dairy-free recipe. So we have plenty of alternatives for alternative diets as well, for vegan or gluten-free. But Christmas cake and Christmas pudding, wonderful recipes in Cookie Dough. Again, very, very easy to make ahead, and that way you're not rushing around nearer the time. And I always find these things homemade just have such a lovely flavour. And yes, there are probably a good 10 different Christmas cake recipes, so you might have to find the one that you love. Sometimes I just read through the ingredients, because a lot of the time the ingredients in a dish gives me an idea of, yes, I think I prefer this one to that one. So make sure you read through the ingredients, because that might help you decide which one you want to make. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I've done with my little cranberry bowl. So I'm going to move, there you go, that's my lovely crumble cake pudding. Doesn't that look yummy? I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm going to show you what I've done with my cheese balls. There we go. So I put them in the freezer. So what I did is I made 3 of these balls and put them in cling film. Now these normally, I would put them in the oven maybe, in the oven, in the freezer or in the fridge. I would put them in the fridge for at least a few hours before I crumb them. But I've just put them in the freezer now to get it a little bit firmer. This is a really delicious little treat. And remember, we made these pecans earlier on, pecan crumbs. So I'm going to put it on a plate. And these are the crumb pecans. I can't say my words now. So I'm going to open my cling film. And as you can see, I've got a little ball inside. And all I have to do now is roll the ball in the pecans. And we're going to crumb coat it. And don't tell me this isn't cute. And I've made 3 out of that mixture, because yes, normally what I would do is use one for Christmas Eve, use one for Christmas Day. Depends how many people you've got coming, obviously. And then another one for Boxing Day. So I've made 3 lovely pecan and cranberry balls. There you go. Can you see that okay? And that's how cute they look. And again, very versatile, because you can make this ahead quite a few days. You can turn them into mini balls if you wanted to. You can make a giant cheese ball, or you can portion it like I have. I've made 3 out of the recipe, and that's how cute they look. What do you think? Do you like it?
Gorgeous, Anna.
It's really delicious as well. Very yummy. This is one of my favorite things. So again, a little alternative to something that you wouldn't just buy, that you just rustle up. But look how easy it was to make. It's made within 3 or 4 minutes. So that's how fast you make a recipe like this.
Beautiful. And so I'm just going to show you my so that's my sweet potato mash. So I just added in my cooked sweet potato back into that butter, sage and garlic mixture. and it got a little bit of a whisk around. So I'll just put some in a dish just so you can see what that's like. So I've made it super creamy. I actually gave it a bit of an extra blend because I like it really, really creamy. So that is what that looks like there. If you can see it. I don't know what's going on with this camera. But I was just going to say, in terms of freezing this mash, there's a couple of different ways you can use it. So I've actually just I've just bought these new super cubes. I don't know if you've seen these before. So you can
That looks very cool.
Liquid, or you can so that's one option. And actually there's measurements inside, so it tells you half a cup, 1 cup, 125 mils, 250 mils, so that's handy. And the other thing, if your freezer is getting quite full, as lots of people are coming up to Christmas, freezing things flat is quite a good idea as well. So you can put your mash into like a BPA free baker foil bag. I found these ones quite good. And then you can just spread it out. So I do this sometimes with curries and stuff as well. So it sounds a bit weird, but then you can freeze them flat and you can stack them, and you can easily see what they are. So you just, write it down what it is, what date you've done it. And so, yeah, so I'll just let my mash cool down, and I'm probably going to do that. I'm going to put my mash in a bag, so that I can freeze it flat like that. Now, the other thing, we're just a little bit gone over time. I just wanted to just mention quickly gravy. So gravy is a wonderful thing that you can make ahead. There's some lovely recipes on Cookie Do. I'm actually going to adapt a Jamie Oliver one, but not today because we're out of time. But I'm probably going to do that live on my Facebook page. I'm Michelle's Family Kitchen on Facebook. What, you're Food in the Mix, aren't you, Anna?
I am indeed, yeah.
Food in the Mix. Yeah, we'll put those links as well when we're sending it out. But yeah, I picked up some really cheap chicken wings today. They were on sale, so I'm going to roast up some chicken wings and some veggies and make a lovely gravy. Ready to add to my pan juices and a bit of cranberry sauce on the day. But I will be doing I'll be freezing my gravy in this. So yeah, that's it.
Michelle, loads of amazing tips there. Thank you very much. I think we've all learned a lot today. And yeah, love it. Really love it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the recipes that we've showed you today. I hope you've got a few new tips and tricks. I hope it helps you to organize Christmas every year. Remember, you've got the weekly planner as well. And the weekly planner, you could go as far ahead as you want. So you can start adding Christmas recipes to your weekly planner from any time of the year, so you can organize when you want to start making what. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks a million, Anna. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now. If anybody wants to stay on for a couple of minutes to ask any questions, please feel free. We're getting lots of lovely love hearts. That's really nice.
Thank you
so much. And we have recorded today as well. So just in case you have anybody that might like to watch this, feel free to forward it to them. But in the meantime, we'll say bye-bye.